When you're looking to buy a DLC, making the decision of which one to spend your money on is always a tough choice, and Conan Exiles is no different. You don't want to purchase a DLC only to find out you don't really like it or it isn't what you were hoping for. So today, we're going to be going through all of the Conan Exiles DLCs and what they offer to hopefully make that decision a little easier. Before we get started though, I'll give you a little bit of advice. If you're purchasing these DLCs on Steam, just be patient and wait for a seasonal sale. Fortunately for us, Conan is one of those games that always seems to be included on these larger sales, and you can get a decent chunk of change off the DLCs. When I bought Conan in the 2019 Lunar New Year sale, I saved a decent amount on the game, and all the Year 1 DLCs, managing to get all of those for £70 down from £140, so definitely wait for those sales. I'm not sure how the sales are on console, but again, I would always advise waiting for the sale. Furthermore, if you don't already know, all Conan DLC is basically cosmetic. All of the building pieces are equivalent to black ice in strength, and the weapons and armour are comparable to items available to all players in the base game, so picking a DLC is more of a personal choice based on the style that you like the most. If you're looking to get a better look at a certain DLC, feel free to scrub through the video and find the section you're looking for through the play bar below, which I've segmented for each DLC section. So, without further ado, let's get started. We are starting off with one of my personal favourites. Blood and Sand is definitely a flexible and interesting DLC pack that was the first to offer vaulted ceiling pieces. Whilst the building set in this pack is named Arena, it's viable in many different build types and biomes. The pack also works really well with different types of lighting and decoration, making it one of the most flexible multi-purpose DLC packs available. One downside is that the DLC does not offer roof pieces, sloping sides or fence foundations. The first two are stylistic choices, however the lack of fence foundations do make using the pack somewhat difficult, if not somewhat impossible, on servers that restrict regular foundation usage. Blood and Sand also adds the Battle Standard, which transforms the surrounding area into a standard PvP combat area. This works by creating an area where players can freely fight each other, though all combat within the zone is optional, with players that are on PvE or outside PvP hours having to opt in to the option to fight with other players. This item is perfect for making PvP arenas in PvE servers. Alongside this functional banner, there are also some decorative war banners that work perfectly for creating your own factions, and are flexible enough to be used with other DLC packs, but there isn't much in the way of placeables in this DLC. Blood and Sand also offers some pretty attractive armours and weapons. This DLC adds the Assassin, Bear Shaman and Barbarian armour sets, along with the Bloodletter weapons and a few other short swords and axes. Blood and Sand is a solid DLC choice with some slight stylistic and technical downfalls, and I would give the Blood and Sand DLC a 4 out of 5. Debaucheries of Derketo is an interesting one. It's clearly targeted at the role-playing community, offering many different additions that add tavern-related items that are perfect for that community. This DLC offers a few new building materials but not too many. This includes some great hanging and rope bridge designs, some stage pieces and the treehouse foundation. The first two are great, but my experience of using the treehouse foundation often causes me to wake up in cold sweats. I'm not sure if it's just a me thing or just the piece not really being that practical, but in my experience the treehouse foundation has never really worked too well. On the upside, this DLC adds tons of placeables, all designed around that tavern theme. This includes barrels, baskets, wine items, curtains, benches, and even a chessboard with all the relevant pieces. The placeables of this DLC are hard to fault really, and even though the curtains can be a bit of a pain sometimes, this section of the DLC is pretty nice. Debaucheries of Derketo also adds 12 new emotes, 6 war paints and some armour. The emotes are your standard fare for social roleplay, but are nice to have. The war paints are pretty minor additions, and again, they are nice to have, and the armour sets of this DLC are the Innkeeper, Noble, Dark Templar, Guardian, Silver, Gold and Bejeweled set, all of which are pretty nice. Overall, Debaucheries of Derketo is a fairly well made DLC, offering some nice new decorations, building pieces and armour, but unfortunately it falls down at the treehouse foundation. People seem to be pretty excited about that, but in my experience at least, working with it often ends up being more of a hassle than it's worth. Therefore, the Debaucheries of Derketo DLC gets a 3 out of 5. Now this is a DLC I remember a lot of people being excited for. Riders of Hyboria accompanied the addition of mounts to the game, and whilst mounts are a free addition, this DLC builds on that theme and offers some fairly nice new items. This DLC offers the Stable and Lattice building sets. Stable is a nice, clean wood design, perfect for a variety of things from lavish mansions to small stables, and Lattice works really well as a nice garden wall or makeshift windows. Stable and Lattice aren't the most unique or extravagant materials, and they do unfortunately lack the roof pieces or sloping sides, but they're a solid addition. The placeables of this DLC are nice too. There are only 14, and they include carts, haystacks, food and water troughs, weather vanes, stone walkways and more. Again, nothing too extravagant, but they suit the theme really nicely. In terms of armour, this DLC adds the Poitain set, offering 3 subsets in the Footman, Campaign and Cavalier set. Each is well designed and perfectly suits the idea of mounted knights. Alongside the armour you also have the Poitain weapon sets and the saddles, which include the Poitain, Turan, Noble Scout, Silent Legion, Kitai and Yamatai saddles, all of which are really nicely designed. Finally, this DLC also offers the Tainted Fodder, which allows you to change the colour of your mount. Riders of Hyboria is a fairly understated but perfectly suitable DLC for what it's trying to be, and whilst the lack of certain building pieces does bring it down a bit, this DLC is great if you're aiming for a comfortable and homely style. Riders of Hyboria gets a 3.5 out of 5. This DLC is an interesting one. Architects of Argos is perfectly capable of standing on its own as a DLC pack, but it also works really nicely with the next pack we'll be looking at. Architects of Argos adds the Argosian building set, which includes materials that look quite similar to the Aquilonian set, along with some vaulted ceiling pieces. This building set is, in my opinion, probably one of the best. It can definitely stand alone, but when you pair it with Aquilonian, this building set really shines with what it can offer. This pack also includes 17 placeables, including statues, carpets, tapestries, flags and fountains. These items, though they can be a little situational, are definitely great to have, and some are flexible enough to fit in different builds that don't use Argosian or Aquilonian. For armours, we have the Mariner, Gladiator and Phalanx set. In my opinion, these armours are a little ugly, especially compared to the Aquilonian set, however, that's all personal preference. I see what they were going for, and they did achieve it, it's just not to my personal taste. Depending on the aesthetic you're looking for, these armours may be perfect for you. The weapons of this pack are, of course, the Argosian set, which is a perfectly serviceable choice and works nicely with the armour. This pack also adds the Argosian Warhorse, Scout and Cavalry saddles for your horses, each of which are quite nice. Architects of Argos is a pretty nice DLC overall that really perfectly complements the Aquilonian set whilst also not being reliant on it, and has a very distinct style that works really nicely in a lot of settings. Therefore, Architects of Argos gets a 4 out of 5. Speaking of Aquilonian, here we are. This is quite an old DLC now, releasing back in August 2018, but it's a solid option that, as I said, plays well with the Argosian set, which helps to cover some of the weaknesses of this pack. Jewel of the West offers the Aquilonian building set, which is similar to the Argosian set and is perfect for the Greek building style. This set does not have vaulted ceilings, so things can end up a little boxy unless you mix Argosian in with it, but overall the building set is quite nice. 24 placeables are also included in this pack, which includes statues, jars, flags, braziers and some other interesting items. The placeables in the set are really nice, and much like Argosian, some are flexible enough to work with different DLC sets. This pack adds the Aquilonian Scout, Infantry and Black Dragon set. These are some of my favourite armour sets in the game, with Aquilonian Scout being my second favourite light armour set. Each of these armours are really nicely designed and really suits the aesthetic. The weapons are, of course, the Aquilonian set, and again, suit the style perfectly. This DLC also adds 5 war paints, each of which are fairly small additions, but they're nice to have. The Jewel of the West DLC almost perfectly captures the Greek architectural style, but does show its age in the lack of vaulted pieces. Argosian really helps to cover the weaknesses in this DLC, and the two pair really nicely together, but on its own, this DLC is very good, it's just not perfect. The Jewel of the West gets a 3.5 out of 5. from the west to the east, here is the Imperial East DLC. This pack is Khitan themed and offers some fairly interesting items. This DLC offers the Khitan building set, which includes all the usual pieces. The set is fairly nice, with the walls being perfect for interiors. However, the walls are a little bit bland in my opinion. They're the same texture either side, and that's not really great for exterior design. It's a very soft wood texture, but that's just my opinion. Aside from that, the building set is quite nice and offers some nice stone and tile based pieces. 24 placeables are included in this set, and it includes pots, cauldrons, seating, carpets, idol statues and more. And they're all suitable for the Khitan style, though some will work outside of that setting. Overall, the placeables are quite nice. In terms of armour, this set offers the Khitan Mercenary, Captain and Imperial armours, which again suits the theme quite nicely. The Captain and Mercenary set in particular are really nice, and are some of my personal favourite armours. This set also adds the Khitan weapon set, which are really nicely designed, and 5 war paints, which also capture the Khitan style perfectly. Overall, this DLC is pretty good. The Khitan theme is quite a unique one, clearly based on feudal China. Whilst the walls do feel a bit weak for the exterior of structures, the rest of the additions in this pack are nice and come together to create a clear and very impressive style. The Imperial East gets a 3.5 out of 5. If the Riders of Hyboria DLC is understated and simple, Treasures of Turan is anything but. This DLC offers some extraordinarily opulent pieces based on the old Persian style. This pack adds the Turanian building set, a beautiful yet slightly overwhelming set with all the necessary pieces. The main colours of this set are black and gold, which can make for quite an overbearing and busy style, which works for some builds and not for others. These pieces work quite nicely with warm light, which helps to bring out the gold and make the set quite literally shine, but again it can be busy and quite overwhelming as an architectural choice. Alongside the building pieces you also have 9 placeables, quite a small amount. This includes 3 lighting options, a jar, a cup, a stool and 3 statues. There definitely could have been more added to this section, but what has been added is fairly nice. With this pack you get the Turanian Scout, Mercenary and Phalanx armour sets. The Scout is my favourite light armour in the game, and mixes black, red and browns together to create a really nice armour. Mercenary is pretty extravagant in its design, and Phalanx is a beautiful yet intimidating heavy armour. Overall, the armours are really quite nice. You also have the Turanian weapon set, which suits the armours perfectly. You also have 5 war paints in this pack, along with the fodder, which allows you to create a caravan elephant, which suits the DLC perfectly. Overall, Treasures of Turan is an incredibly opulent set with beautiful armour additions, but unfortunately the building pieces can be very overbearing. The building pieces are far from an everyday use item, and the lack of placeables is a big downfall, but the other additions are quite nice. Therefore, Treasures of Turan gets a 2.5 out of 5. Now we are heading over to Japan with the Seekers of the Dawn pack. This DLC adds the Yamatai building set, a material set with a clean, minimalist design reminiscent of traditional Japanese buildings. Yamatai is a great building set that works really nicely for the intended style while still being flexible enough to work for some other build types. The wall pieces also have a very small detail of gold running through them, which plays really nicely with warm light and helps to make the pieces look quite extravagant. This DLC unfortunately doesn't add any placeables, which is a big downside. For the player, this pack offers the Yamatai Foot Soldier, Demon and Warlord armour sets, all of which cover 3 major themes of Japanese armour, and all of them are really nice. I can't fault these armours at all. You also get the Yamatai weapon set, which includes katanas, naginatas, tetsubos and more, all of which really suit the Japanese theme. You also get 5 war paints and a fodder, used to create a few different pet skins that make for a nicely designed reskin option. Overall, the Seekers of the Dawn DLC is a good addition with a beautiful building set and well designed armour and weapon offerings, but unfortunately it does fall a bit flat due to its lack of placeables, especially when there are so many different options that could have been added. Therefore, Seekers of the Dawn gets a 3.5 out of 5. Next up we have the Savage Frontier DLC, based on Pictish culture. This DLC adds the Frontier building set, a dark, thematically appropriate set with dark wood on the interior and a dark, coarse exterior. This building set is quite nice for what it's trying to be and works nicely with thatch, stone and other types of wood. However, these pieces don't always play well with light and often ends up creating a build that is overly dark and sometimes not in a good way. The roof pieces also seem like they're made of a heavy metal of sorts, which doesn't really suit the walls at all. This build set also has no placeables, which is a big loss considering all of the Pict related items that could have fit into this gap. This pack includes the Pictish Wizard, Brave and War Chief armours. Whilst they are a bit extravagant in design, I like these armours. They're not the best, but they're appropriate for what they're trying to be and they suit the theme nicely. You also have the Pictish weapon set, which offers 9 weapons that look fairly vicious and suits the theme nicely. In this pack you also have 5 warpanes and a totemic fodder, which allows you to reskin your pet into some designs that I think really suit the theme of this DLC and make for a nice small addition. Overall, this is a decent DLC pack that unfortunately loses points for its lack of placeables and the lack of flexibility you sometimes encounter with the building set. Therefore, the Savage Frontier gets a 2 out of 5. This DLC is for all the fans of the Conan the Barbarian films from the 80s, but how does it fare as an actual DLC? The Riddle of Steel adds 5 helmets, 3 warpaints and a whopping 35 placeables. The majority are statues and figurines of different characters from the films, which is okay but honestly nothing too special. What really brings this DLC down is the pricing compared to the other DLC packs, considering honestly there's nothing really substantial here, and the fact this DLC was not included in the season pass for the year it was released in. In my opinion, this DLC is a bit of a waste, as these placeables could easily have been thrown into the Blood and Sand pack, which has hardly any placeables. Therefore, the Riddle of Steel gets a 1.5 out of 5. Now, this is a sticky one. The Isle of Siptah is currently only available on PC, and will hopefully be available on console soon enough. This DLC adds a new map, the Isle of Siptah, which is alright. From a builder's point of view, the map is a bit bland, with many vast expanses filled with basically nothing. From a gameplay point of view, Isle of Siptah seems to get mixed reviews from the PvE and PvP players, and it seems Funcom are working on improving how the map feels, looks and plays, but progress has been slow. This DLC also adds the Stormglass and Flotsam build sets, with Flotsam being a tier 1 material and Stormglass being tier 3. Flotsam is meant to be a salvaged looking set cobbled together from shipwrecks. Visually this material set is busy and messy, but it isn't too bad, and of course the nature of it being tier 1 actually restricts how useful it is. If you're a PvE or roleplay kind of person, this set definitely has its uses, but it's just not really too practical. Stormglass, on the other hand, is an outstanding addition. Similar in tonality to Turanian, this set is comprised mainly of black and gold pieces that work nicely with warm light and really give off an opulent atmosphere. Stormglass also includes large glass windows and roof pieces, which is something the game has needed desperately for quite a while. Overall, Stormglass is a dark, imposing building set that works really nicely for some build designs, with the window pieces actually working well in a lot of builds with a lot of different DLCs. This DLC also adds a Rhino mount and saddles for it, along with a reskin for the Rhino if you purchase it in early access. You also get 3 classes of armour, including 5 sets of light, 5 sets of medium and 4 sets of heavy armour. There are also tons of weapons added of different types, along with some construction pieces that are used in the gameplay loop of the Isle of Siptah map. Overall, the Isle of Siptah is a decent DLC, but the slow development of the map itself and the lack of availability for console players really drags this DLC down, and hopefully Funcom knuckle down and finish this expansion off sooner rather than later. The Isle of Siptah gets a 2 out of 5. And there we have it, every DLC explained and rated. This has been quite a lengthy video, but hopefully this helps you to make an informed decision on which DLC to purchase. As I said in the start, do try your best to wait for a sale so you can save some money on these DLC packs, but hopefully this video has helped you make the decision on which one to get next. As usual, this video is indeed sponsored by NordVPN. If you want to stay safe on the internet and ensure you can't be tracked by shady individuals, all whilst being able to access Netflix, BBC iPlayer, ITV, Hulu, HBO and more regardless of where you live, all whilst maintaining blazing fast internet speeds, NordVPN is the perfect choice for you. When you use my link or discount code, you can get 68% off a 2-year deal, which comes out to $3.71 a month, an absolute bargain price for such a great service that I use almost every day. The software is a small download and it's easy to use. One click and you're both connected and protected, and you have full access to the internet. Nord also has very strict policies on protecting your data, meaning you can browse in confidence. Visit nordvpn.org/eradyt or use code eradyt at checkout to claim this huge discount and get the best VPN service available on the internet, and also help me out a lot at the same time. As always, thanks to Nord for sponsoring the video. If you've enjoyed this video, leave a like and let me know in the comments below if you have any build suggestions for future videos. As usual, absolutely anything is welcome. Don't forget to both follow me on Twitch and join the fun on our Discord through the links in the description. YouTube is currently my full-time source of income, so if you enjoy the content and would like to help support the channel so I can continue to put out the best content possible, do consider becoming a patron. The link to my Patreon is in the description, so if you'd like to support the channel, feel free to come and join us on Patreon. On that note, a thanks to our current patrons Sammy, Sodialot, Randar, Connor, Blue Ivy, Velma, Shannara, Torn, and Eagle Rose. If you're new here, feel free to check out the rest of the content on the channel. There are new Conan Exiles videos coming every Wednesday and Sunday, so if you like what you see, subscribe and ring the notification bell to be the first to see the next video, and to join us on the road to 10,000 subscribers. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.